Fox News alert: a revolution's brewing across the pond in Northern Ireland. Last night, hundreds of masked Irishmen rioted across the city of Belfast, burning buses, torching cars, and setting homes on fire. The Irish haven't been this uppity in decades. So how did it start? 48 hours ago, an African national was charged with attempted murder of an Irishman. He was almost beheaded. The barbaric attack caught on camera. Witnesses were heard crying, "He's trying to cut his head off. He's slicing his head off." This crazed man from Sudan pinned his victim to the ground and was slashing in every direction. Stephen Ogilvie had deep knife wounds in his head, face, and back. He even lost his eye. Somehow he's still alive, but in a coma. But who was the butcher? His name's Hadi Oladid, not an Irish lad. He's 30 years old and went from Sudan to Paris before he flew into Dublin and took a bus into Belfast back in 2023. He applied for asylum and the kingdom gave him refugee status. Police say the Belfast butcher wasn't in any security database. He was unknown. Now, when this nut was arrested, he told cops, quote, "I've killed someone. I don't know if they're dead." This animal was taken to the hospital, too, where he threatened to slash another Irishman, telling them, "I'll kill you." This guy went to court, couldn't even speak English. The people have had it.
They're not listening. The political class are not listening. These people who are coming over here illegally, they're rapists, terrorists. They're coming over here. It's literally like putting a wolf in a sheep field. You are giving them a target-rich environment. You haven't vetted them. You've done nothing. All you've done is dump them in a place where they can wreak havoc. Where they come from, guess what? There's no law. If they can do literally whatever they like, well, guess what? What goes around comes around. And I think the political class have got a very, very, very big smack on the nose coming.
One reporter asked an Irish politician, "How many more years of open borders can we take?" The minister said, "We just have to be more inclusive."
Fake news, and on the day that's in it, totally inappropriate. I don't know any country that has open borders. I believe in an immigration system that is fair and managed and enforceable and compassionate and human rights compliant, but that is not the debate for today. The debate today is about our society, about our inclusive society, our welcoming society.
Human rights compliant. The real threat, she says, isn't the African migrant trying to behead the Irish, it's the Irish reaction.
It is thuggery, plain and simple. The attack in North Belfast was heinous and it was absolutely wrong. But what we're now witnessing is that attack being exploited by dangerous and reckless people to target innocent people who had absolutely nothing to do with it.
The United Kingdom is at a tipping point with migrant crime. In December, an 18-year-old Englishman was sliced to death by an Indian. Henry Novak, a student, was out with his friends one night when he noticed the guy was carrying an 8-inch blade. The teen asks, "What's with the blade?" The Indian says, "I'm a bad man," and then stabbed Novak over and over, including a fatal wound to the chest. Cops showed up, and the Indian with the sword said he was being a racist. Guess who cops handcuffed? The white kid bleeding out.
What's your name, mate? Huh? Has anyone been hurt other than him?
Yeah, me. He's grabbed my brother. He's took my turban off, started grabbing my head.
Are you injured?
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruises.
Alright, just step back a little bit for me. Alright, let's get you out of there, shall we? What's happened to you, alright?
Been stabbed.
You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? I don't think you have, mate.
That's what, and then you've got nothing. I'm going to keep you up.
Hand?
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
Novak died at the scene. Cops just let him bleed to death while they put his hands behind his back. In the UK, it is illegal to carry knives, but there's a religious exemption. The Sikh Indians walk around with a kirpan. It's a ceremonial knife that can be up to a foot long. basically a dagger. They've used them historically as a weapon, not as a letter opener. J.D. Vance responded to the attack saying this: Henry Novak died the same way a civilization dies, abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trusted nor cared for him, and accused of hate crimes he did not commit. He should still be alive today, and he would be if the last few generations of European elites had stood their ground against the politics of self-hatred and the mass invasion of migrants. Now, when the body cam dropped, protesters lit up the streets of Southampton. And now tonight, more protests in Belfast. Police were just seen using water cannons to disperse the crowd. You can feel the anger in the streets.
I will never condone what I saw in Belfast last night, but until they drag me from this studio, I am not going to sit here and say I don't understand the revulsion. I do. I get people's anger. Hard-working, law-abiding, normal, everyday people who are increasingly thinking, what the hell? Not only economically am I screwed, not only socially am I screwed, but now I have to look over my shoulder.
90% of all jobs created in the UK in the last 20 years have gone to foreign-born. Politicians are importing the third world, where they steal jobs and stab bodies. Yeah, people are mad. Doesn't make the riots right, but I hear them. Former UFC champ Conor McGregor said this: ban immigration from the third world now. Help them from where they are, as we've done over the years so many times beautifully and nobly. They cannot come here any longer. McGregor was at the White House last year warning about all of this.
It's high time that America is made aware of what is going on in Ireland. What is going on in Ireland is a travesty. Our government is the government of zero action with zero accountability. The illegal immigration racket is running ravage on the country. There are rural towns in Ireland that have been overrun in one swoop, that have become a minority in one swoop. So issues need to be addressed, and the 40 million Irish Americans, as I said, need to hear this, because if not, there will be no place to come home and visit.
Trump's been warning Europe that unchecked migration is going to wipe away hundreds of years of their civilization. The president says we were on the cusp of looking like Europe until he came in.
I believe it was the most insecure and unsecure border anywhere in the world. And they allowed this open border policy where millions of people came into our country, unchecked, unvetted, people from jails, people, drug dealers, people from mental institutions. Jails and mental institutions from all over the world were emptied out into our country. And we've got a lot of them out. We have a ways to go.
Today, POTUS signed a bill to give almost $70 billion to ICE and Border Patrol. America can't turn into Europe, or Manhattan will look like Belfast tonight. We cannot afford any more riots. American politicians should see what's going on in Ireland and make sure that doesn't happen here. Because when government betrays its people, the people will govern themselves. And that can get a little messy. Victor Davis Hanson, a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. What do you think of what's going on over there in Belfast?
Well, it's a reminder that DEI, or racial chauvinism, ethnic chauvinism combined with open borders and mass immigration from illiberal societies, is a recipe for disaster. And nobody condones the counter riots, but when you bring in people from antithetical cultures and you tell them upon arrival they don't have to acculturate, integrate, or assimilate, but they have grudges against their host because they feel that they're victimized, and you lavish social entitlements upon them and you make them exempt from any consequences of their illiberal behavior, then you get what we've seen there. And we got to remember, Jesse, both in the United States and in Europe, especially the UK, we're 60 years, 3 generations from the Civil Rights Acts and their versions of them. So we've got 3 generations of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that grew up with reverse discrimination, and they didn't know anything about segregation or institutionalized racism. All they know is that their job opportunities were curtailed because there was this new idea of equality of result, where people, based on their skin color or ethnic origins, or whether they're migrants or something, they had preferential treatment, and yet they were paying for the sins of prior generations. That's what they felt. They felt, And then finally, there was a class element to it. The elites crafted this system to bring in constituents dependent on state largesse, but they were never subject to the consequences of their own terrible ideology because they had the money and the zip codes and the resources to protect themselves from that kind of violence that we saw. And they made it worse by insulting the white working class as if they're illiberal and Neanderthal when they created the conditions and they were immune from them. And now they don't know what to do because they realize it's blowing up in their face, both there and in the United States.
Yeah, what kind of country, VDH,
it was inevitable.
What kind of country disarms their population and then brings foreigners in and hands them knives and then just says, have at it?
It's a society in disarray. It has no confidence in its civilization, its past, its traditions. And when it projects that image of apology and constant contextualization, we're sorry, you have legitimate complaints against us the moment you set foot in our country, then that magnanimity is not going to be reciprocated. It's going to be shown contempt as weak and waffling, and the immigrant then has no respect for the host. And the more that you lavish and apologize, the more emboldened they get. So you get to the absurd where a person's in the street beheading somebody and screaming to the effect that I'm beheading somebody, what are you going to do about it? And it was fun, and it was ironic, but you almost felt nobody was going to do something about it until finally somebody did. But I think we're reaching a boiling point both in the United States and in Europe where this idea that Western civilization is toxic, white privilege, white supremacy, all this. It's been, as I said, 3 generations from the idea that special preference based on race to make up and atone for past discrimination would give us an equality of result, and it didn't. And we need to get back to meritocracy, and if people do not want to participate, and then that's their problem. But I think immigration is going to be vastly reduced, both legal and, of course, illegal.
It should be, because now immigration's a weapon, and it's a self-inflicted wound.
Yes,
VDH, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.